My college coach showed up to my wedding last summer. That means more to me than anything in this world.
Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Coach's Corner. Coach's Corner every Thursday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, where I spend some time talking with college coaches from all levels, all divisions, hopefully to allow parents and student athletes to gain some insight and information as it pertains to the real world of college baseball. What works and what doesn't work. And my guest today, NCAA Division II head coach Drew Bailey from Bluefield State University. Drew, welcome aboard, Captain.
Walter, thank you for having me. Appreciate you doing this right around the holidays.
Well, we had a technical snafu the last time we had Coach Bailey on, and I had a lot of people who were anticipating hearing that conversation. You know, they're in that greater Pittsburgh, West Virginia area, and they wanted to hear from Coach Bailey. I wanted to make sure we got that done before the end of the year. And so, Drew, I want to start off. I had a question, and it really was something that I found to be, important for parents to understand. When a student athlete is considering, just playing college baseball, and, from logistical standpoint, they're in your Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, West Virginia kind of corridor. What is the best way for them to reach out to you directly? Are you more of a social media fan, or are you more of an email fan? How do you want a student athlete to kind of initiate the process with regard to Bluefield State?
Well, I think, social media is obviously a good way, but I don't know about other coaches. Some of us get a pretty large amount of Twitter message requests or whatever it is. I prefer email, but that doesn't mean that, if a kid sends me a message on Instagram, if he can play, we're obviously not going to say, well, you messaged me on Instagram. I don't care how they message me. If he can play, we're going to try and get him on campus. But I think a video is usually the best way with a YouTube link with an email, short paragraph, address the coach, don't make it it doesn't need to say coach in the headline, or like, I'm interested in your school. Like, maybe address the coach by name. I think that's good. But again, at the end of the day, no matter what the platform, we're going to try, if we evaluate that kid and we like him, we're going to try and get him on campus, and we're going to start the conversation. I think email is the best way personally, with a short paragraph, YouTube link.
And what's the caliber of student athletes? So a lot of times student athletes are using metrics, analytics, et cetera. Kind of give us some baselines a little bit about the student athlete that fits at your level at Bluefield State, as far as whether it's a velocity as a pitcher, what type of hitters are you looking for? Where's that sweet spot for you as a coach and a coaching staff?
Well, I think for us on the mound, we're looking for right-handers, probably 85, 84 to 88, mid to upper 80s. If they're 83 to 86 and they're projectable, that's something we're looking at. What's the frame look like? Is there room to grow? Or are you kind of maxed out or tapped out with your frame on where you're at? That's, projectability, something we really look at. Left-handed, I tell my son he's left-handed. I said, you just got to throw strikes. You don't realize how lucky you have it. If you're left-handed and you can fill the zone up and change speeds with a good pickoff move, you'll probably find yourself somewhere on a college roster. Now, I don't know what level that'll be, but we've got a lefty that was 80-82 this fall that threw really well. And then we've got lefties that are 84 to 88. We've had a lefty up to 90 last fall. So it just depends. But really, we're looking for guys that can command the fastball, spin it, and show some type of a changeup, left-handed. Right-handed as well, but we want, if you're left-handed, you've got to possess some type of changeup, or at least flash some type of potential for it. Now, we feel confident we can teach that. But so for a lefty, I'd say, low 80s to mid 80s, projectability somewhere in there. The more projectability, the lower the velocity that we're looking for when we take you, because the frame's there, the room to grow's there. Athleticism is a big thing we look for, just bat speed, just fast twitch, guys that have a good knack for putting the barrel on the baseball, because you can be a really physical kid, but if you don't consistently put the barrel on the baseball, then, name of the game is hitting, not swinging. Right. So, but we're looking for guys that don't strike out a lot,
And that really has become something, a lot of parents and student athletes today are consumed with exit velocity with a wood bat, exit velocity with an aluminum bat, on a tee, off a tee. And I try to tell parents all the time, there's two things with regard to hitting. One is ball strike. I mean, it's great you can hit 400-foot tanks, but you want to start to make sure you're putting balls in play, moving runnings around, and exit velocity off a tee doesn't really tell a coach too much. They want to see when you're up at the plate and somebody that can spin it a little bit, that has a tight little slider. And so I'm glad that you were able to mention that. When you're talking with a family or you're talking with a potential recruit, in your eyes, what makes Bluefield State special? What is it that when you're trying to get them to campus to kind of consider your program, what is it that you feel makes your program unique and special?
Well, I think first couple things is we're historically Black college and university, and if you look in our region with Division II, there's not a single Division II HBCU left in the state of North Carolina, and there's only, to my knowledge, one that has baseball in the state of Virginia, and there's only two in the state of West Virginia. So I think that's important. I think only 5% of males in baseball are Black males. Only 5% of Black males in NCAA baseball. So that's something that I've always felt passionate about changing. My two best friends in college, my roommates were Black males, so that's something that I've always been passionate about. Like, we need to diversify our game. Now I can't change everyone's platform, but I mean, I have the platform here to hopefully push that and diversify the game more. So I think first off, we're historically Black college, and I think that's special. Secondly, we have a really good engineering major, and kids are getting smarter, parents are getting smarter, and they want to go to an institution where there's going to be a return on their investment quicker when they graduate. So we landed a pitcher not too long ago who was very set out when he came here. He wanted to be an engineering major, and we have probably, I don't know, 10, 15 engineering majors on our roster. So that's a very important part, the academic side, trying to more diverse our staff or our roster, excuse me. And for me, those are two big pieces. Now, from the baseball side, I'm selling myself. I'm selling our staff. We've got a really good associate head coach, Evan Reekle, really good with hitters, infielders. Our graduate assistant, Kevon Moxie, played here. He's from the Bahamas. We've got a really good staff. So we're selling our staff. We're selling our vision, because when I took this program over, we hadn't had a winning season. Never. We had never had a winning season. We didn't have a lot of resources. And a lot of things, credit to our administration, a lot of things have changed here. We've got 18 sports, et cetera. We've got dorms. We hadn't had dorms since the 60s, but more so we're selling our vision. I'm selling what success looks like, what good culture looks like, what player development looks like, because player development, that's the most overused term in all of baseball. It's like, we're going to develop you. You know what I mean?
Well, I think the big thing to understand for parents and student athletes, it's 2 points I want to make sure I make. One, starting outfielder this year in the World Series, Division II baseball player. So, when we start talking about D1 or bust mindset, you have to understand Major League Baseball, professional baseball is literally a landscape filled with, JUCO, NAIA, Division III, Division II, and obviously the majority of Division I. But, you start looking around at Millersville and things like that. I think that's important for parents to understand. The other thing I really want to go back to, and I think it's an important point that we do not discuss enough. At the major league, or better yet, the professional level, major league rosters, and that means the 40-man rosters, are comprised less than 8% of Black males, and 30% with regard to Latin players. And youth baseball, our numbers are dwindling. I equate that to lack of accessibility to youth baseball in cities and towns because of travel baseball. That's a whole different topic. But the other one is we have a lot of single parent homes in the world today, and we don't really see a lot of parents passing the sport down. We don't see a lot of playground interaction any longer. So that is something I'm working with, along with a few head coaches in college with Little League, to make baseball more accessible. But my question to you would be, do you go outside your greater area? Having lived in Louisiana and New Orleans specifically, St. Augustine's, comes to mind. They have a tremendous, within the Catholic League in New Orleans, they have a tremendous baseball program. And those athletes, they aspire to play, but sometimes there's just not enough room at the junior colleges down there, or LSU and Tulane. Are you open to student athletes from around the country? Do you, kind of reach out to different parts of the country and kind of see if there's any interest from student athletes from not only the South, but the West Coast as well?
Absolutely. We've got guys from Texas. We've got guys from Puerto Rico. We just signed a young man from Curacao. We've got guys from Connecticut. We've got guys from PA. We've got guys from North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia. We've got guys from all over. So I think one thing that we try and do, and this is something our staff, we talked about the last year or so, is that we want to get our eyes on every player that we sign. Now, that hasn't always been the case, and it probably won't always be the case. But I think one question we ask a lot of kids when they message us, are you willing to come on campus? If you're going to take the time to send us a message, are you willing to come on campus? Now, if they're not, that doesn't mean we can't make it work, but we want to evaluate you with our eyes. I want to meet you. I want to meet your parents. I want to know how you're raised. I want to know what type of background you come from. Those things are very important to me. So the thousands of messages we get in a year from kids from California, Texas, it's like, do you have the means to get on campus? Now, that doesn't mean we can't sign if you can't afford that flight. Maybe you can only afford that first flight in August when school starts, and that flight, Christmas break, and then at the spring, and that's fine. But one thing that I try and do is I try and FaceTime parents when I can. I talk a lot to the kid, or maybe I talk to the dad on a visit or on a phone call, but I know a lot of houses, mom makes the decisions, so when we're looking at kids from across the country or out of the country, it's like, I'd like to make some relationships with their parents. I'd like to just know, how they're raised, because that's important to me. But we're open to kids from anywhere. If you can play and you value academics and you value hard work and you value people, and you love the game, because I think that gets overlooked so much. We could go find 4.0 students everywhere in America, but do you love this game? Like, are you passionate? Like, is this something you really want to do? But yeah, we're open to kids, Walter, from everywhere.
Well, I think one of when I'm talking with parents, and I always say to them, when you're doing research or you're trying to do some due diligence as it relates to not only a university or school, but the coaching staff, you want to find, how they engage with their student athletes, how they communicate and teach and instruct. And one of the things I find fascinating when I'm on my social media kind of scroll, you're one of the few what I consider to be elite pitching information. You're able to disseminate it in a way where it's understandable for both the student athlete and the parent. I think that's a big deal. So when you're out and you're specifically looking at a pitcher, for instance, and you see something on social media that might catch your eye or somebody on your staff's eye, how do you convey to a student athlete not only what they're doing well, but what you might be able to help them with either development or creating a better, a tighter spin? How do you kind of convey that, hey, I might be good for you to help your career, because this is my forte is pitching. So I want you to kind of spend some time with me a little bit, get to know me. And I think this would be good for us for 4 years for you to be a student athlete here. How do you get parents to understand that?
Well, I think first off, transparency is very important. I think we had like a 6.5 last year, but we set the strikeouts record. We got better. We weren't extremely talented on the mound, but we did some really good things. So I think transparency, I have a lot to learn. My guys have a lot to learn, but we're constantly building. This is a big year for us. That's off topic, but transparency is key. I think in anything, we don't tell kids, hey, you're going to play here. We don't tell, but what we will do is we're going to show them how we plan to develop you. We use an app called OnForm. We film all of our guys. They're able to upload videos to it. We can connect through that when we're looking at, when we're uploading comparisons. They can go in the library bank and pull up videos of MLB pitchers. So that's a good resource. We've got Rapsodo. We show them our throwing program. We've built an entire throwing manual that has external links on it for all of our drills broken down into categories, our throwing program, our mobility, all of our stuff. So I think, again, I touched on this a couple minutes ago. Everyone likes to say, we'll develop you. Well, just lifting weights and throwing bullpens and long toss in 2022, that can be a big part of development, but it's a lot deeper than that. So I think when you're transparent and you show them, here's what we're going to do. Here's our plan. Like when we first get guys here in August, September, we'll do a baseline reading. We'll get baseline video, a couple different angles. We'll try and do some type of movement assessments. We'll do a Rapsodo reading to see where they're at, spin, axis, all that good stuff. We want to identify guys' flaws, strengths, and help them to kind of understand who they are. And I think when you have good dialogue and you just have these conversations, it's like, okay, because I get this a lot, Walter. I didn't get past short season A. I didn't get out of A ball.
Right.
So it's like, well, you got drafted, you can help me. That couldn't be the furthest lie. That couldn't be the furthest lie in all of coaching. Like, okay, I got drafted in 2010. I played 10, 11, 12 in indie ball and rookie league and single A. I had one really good year in single A. That doesn't mean that I can coach your son. What helps me to coach your son is that I can communicate, that we can communicate, that we can have a plan of action, that we have understanding that everybody's different, that we have to be a chameleon when we teach, that everybody's different, so it's like, yeah, I'm excited that they value that I play professional baseball, or I'm thankful for that, but that doesn't make me a good coach. My desire to learn every day when I wake up, my desire to get better communicating, that's what's going to help me be a better coach, and developing trust from the kids. So I think transparency is so key. I think we get in this rat race in recruiting, and it's like, recruit, perform. If you don't perform, we replace you. And sometimes that does happen. That's part of the business. But it's like, hey, well, I recruited you. I'm going to help you. As long as you're willing to meet me halfway, like, we're going to get better together. We're in this together. But last thing I'll talk about on the pitching side. One reason I think we've been able to land some of the arms we have getting ready to pitch this spring is that at my level, the D3, the JUCO, the NAIA, the D2 level, and even some of your mid majors, a lot of times when your pitching coaches do a really good job, they're going to advance. So you don't see too many really, really good Division II pitching coaches stay in the same spot too long, because the salary and the finances usually don't make sense. So one of the good, and I tell people I'm very transparent. I got divorced a couple years ago. I've got 50-50 custody of my two oldest kids. I can't leave the area because I'm not leaving my children. And now I got remarried, and I've got a 6-month-old. So, and I'm transparent with that because I want families to know that there's stability for me there, and I run the pitching. Now this might be more of a challenge, or you could say it could be more of a challenge at my level, or you could say it's more of a challenge in the Big 12. I know Randy Mazey runs the pitching at WU, et cetera. Like, so, but I think it gives stability to the fact that I'm the head coach and I run the pitching. That's just my opinion, because if you do your research, there's a high turnover. Lenore Ryan, Chris's staff does a phenomenal job. They got a great team. Their pitching coach last year, they struck out 700 almost. He got the job at Western Carolina. When you perform, people take notice. People take notice, and a lot of times you elevate. And that's where my situation's a little bit different here. We got a beautiful stadium. We've got a very affordable tuition. And while we don't have the fanciest of campuses, we've got a really good degree. We've got really good degrees, really good majors, excuse me. We've got very affordable. We've got a very affordable education. And I think that's becoming lost in the shuffle at a lot of institutions. And we've got an administration that's constantly working to get it, to grow our university. So we just added MBA, and like I said, we're an HBCU. So when I'm transparent about all these things, and we're having conversation of how I can help your kid, I think that's where you earn some trust.
Well, I think it's important to emphasize two words you just said there: affordability, affordable education. And so when we start talking, a lot of student athletes and their families, when you're looking at some of these universities, even at the Division III level, 60,000, 70,000, heck, 40 or 50,000, and you get 50%, let's say, in a good situation, you're still going to have to carry that $20,000 to $30,000 a year loan, student loan, and nobody really recognizes it until you're done and your eligibility is expired and you have your degree and you're 6 months out of school, and boom, oh, by the way, here's a $1,200 a month, bill for student debt. And I think that's something that has to be factored in significantly. So when you say I'm NCAA Division II, we're going to be playing a good quality schedule. We're in a great part of the country. We have a great academic environment, beautiful stadium. I mean, there's something to be said for that. And I believe strongly that if more families opened their search, more student athletes specifically opened their search and understood college baseball is that final frontier of being a student, being a part of a team, having that kind of environment with some of these people that are in your life are probably going to be in your life for the rest of your life because you're growing into becoming a man. So I think what makes you special is your perspective as a parent. I remember as a college coach, my boys were about the same age as your children are now. And I always loved sharing that and letting my team, the student athletes, see what it was like beyond school, being a parent, being a spouse, being a public employee, whether it was at a college as a coach or within the world as a businessman. So I think it's important for parents to understand that. One last question I have to ask is, Drew, one of the things I want you to kind of discuss, could you kind of explain to parents, there's no one way to throw a baseball. There's no one pitching script or hitting script. It's all about the individual athlete and how to be able to take them to become their best. We're not following a script here. You're not following a script. Instructors shouldn't be following scripts. I think parents are led to believe, I'm going to follow that guy because he knows what he's talking about. We're going to hit like him. It doesn't work that way. In other words, you don't take a pitcher and try to turn him into Drew Bailey.
Well, I think I'm a big fan of video. I looked up a stat, said something around 90+% of the world are visual learners. And if you go to a youth baseball game, it's words upon words upon words, do this, and little Johnny's in the box just terrorized, so it's like, I like video. I like for them just to see, okay, because here's the thing, we all interpret words differently, so what might click for you doesn't resonate at all for me. So that's where I think sometimes video can help. I also think young kids need to learn. You need a balance. I don't think young kids need a ton of video. I think young kids need athleticism. They need to be put in positions, drills, whatever it may be, where they're athletic and they're moving. Like, young kids need to move, and they need to move a lot. We don't want them to become robots. And I think I've seen it in my years and I do lessons. I've got a facility, but I've seen kids. I tell parents twice a month is the most you ever need to come in and work with me, because I work with 13 and under kids. I can't work with high school kids because of the NCAA, but like, most lessons for young kids are a waste of money because they don't do anything in between what you're trying to build on and teach them. So it's better off that they just get out and get ground balls, they throw, they hit. And then the other thing too, with especially young kids, when they're trying to learn swings and they're trying to learn a lot of different stuff, is they're not strong enough to make a lot of the adjustments that instructors and people want them to make. Not always. There's always exceptions, but I think strength is a big issue. So as kids get stronger, even my son, he's 9 now. 2 years ago, he looked completely different. So as they develop and get stronger, their levers get longer. I think that makes a huge difference. But I've watched thousands of hours of video. You can put Jacob deGrom up and you can put Dustin May up, and their movements are very different in a lot of ways. But they're both making millions of dollars and they're both in the big leagues. So who's to say one's right and one's wrong?
Right. Exactly.
So it's like, I think we want to cookie cut everything, and we're quick to get instant gratification. So when we see somebody online or social media doing something a certain way, it's like, hey, I got to do that. Whether it's a throwing program, throwing weighted balls, axe bat training, whatever it is, it's like, I've got to do that because I need this now. Like, I need this.
Well, when I see parents and student athletes and they want to talk about hitting 400, all those things as it relates to becoming a great baseball player, your mental side, your physical side, they have to be developed, and it is probably well worth a parent's time to understand that there's going to be disappointment, how to work through those types of things. And those are things that lessons just don't teach. They're not a cure-all for everything. So want
Well,
to
and
make
sorry,
right.
sorry to interrupt you. You have to be, and I'm on my guys on this. I'm on my guys about this all the time. One of my good mentors, his name's Kurt Goodson. His dad, Ed Goodson, played in the big leagues for like 15 years. He runs Backward K Academy. Kirk does. He's one of my really, really good friends, mentors. Kirk always teaches me is like you have to be intentional about what you're doing. And that's not just in a drill, that's not just in baseball. Like I'm on my guys all the time. Like be where your feet are at. Be where your
Right,
feet are at. Like
right.
be good at what you're doing right now and be locked into the task that you're doing now. And in a world of phones and social media, and I'm guilty of it too at times, it's like we're always looking for the next thing. What's up next? What's up next? But instead of being really good in that class that you're in or that weightlifting session that you're in, it's like, what am I doing after this? We've got to be in the moment. We've got to work on what we're working on, and we've got to be able to have one task in our brain and try and accomplish it. But there's so many distractions now. That's why I think your elite guys, your son's one of them, they get to those levels. Of course, they're good athletes. Of course, they move well. But their consistency and their ability to be locked in on a single task and execute it, that goes overlooked so often. And young kids really struggle to do that. That's my opinion.
Well, I think that is a key point. You hear the words "be where your feet are," but you don't understand the significance of it as a young student athlete or young student. Don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about later today. Let's focus on right now. Let's take care of business right now. And if it's something that you don't understand, don't be afraid to ask for help. Just because everybody else is swimming and they feel like they got it figured out, if you don't, it's okay to stop and kind of ask questions. I think we need more of that, specifically at the youth levels of baseball. So one of the things that I wanted to make sure we wrapped up here today is one of the things with regard to the baseball blue book that we're really going to provide for families is access to a coach like Drew Bailey at a university like Bluefield State, where it's something that you may not have at the top of your list, but it's a university that I believe strongly that deserves your consideration, not just Bluefield, but any NCAA Division II program. So many families start their lists at these, the SECs and the ACCs, but at the end of the day, whether it's now a good friend of mine was a head coach at Alabama State, and Drew Clark is still, I believe, an assistant head coach there. And I used to go watch them play, and know that, boy, nobody really, they know about Alabama, but they don't really know about Alabama State. And in your neck of the woods, they may know about Virginia Tech, but they don't know about Bluefield State. And it's really good to create a wide net and really do your homework on those people that are going to be in your son's life for 3 to 4 years and sometimes more. And so it's all about the quality of the people across the board at every university, not just the baseball staff. So I want to make sure parents understand, if this is the type of content that you like, I want you to let me know, put a question down below. I'm going to put in this description all of Coach Bailey's contact information, social media contact, email at school. Go ahead and reach out if you have a question. That's the whole purpose of these videos, is to make sure parents understand how to gain access to Coach Bailey. And heck, if you're on the West Coast and you can't get over to the East Coast and you have some questions for him, still fire him off. You never know what can transpire over the course of 1 or 2 years. So, Drew, I want to say thank you. I want to say Merry Christmas. And I just said Braxton, happy birthday, 9 years old. And it's important for parents to understand we're doing this for kids. This is all about the kids. Whether your son is 6 or 16 or 22, they're still kids, and it's a learning process. So, Drew, I want to thank you for spending time with us and being able to share your thoughts, both professionally and as well as the head coach at Bluefield State University. And I want to make sure, how do you want, like if somebody says, boy, I really like that guy, do you want that email or do you want that follow on Twitter with a DM?
Either way works, but I'd prefer an email. That's good. Email's good, but if they send it on Twitter, that's good too. I think social media is really, you can go through and see, not everybody posts, and that's okay too, but you can go find out a lot about a program. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. Phones are accessible. So when we post content, it's accessible. We reach thousands of people quickly, and we build our brand, and people learn about us. But one thing I want to touch on real quick, Walter, I'll just make it quick. You talked about Division II. I played Division II. I've coached it. I love it. If kids want an opportunity to play, and that doesn't mean that you're going to come here and start right away. But when you were talking about always looking Division I, we've got 6 Division I transfers on our roster now. These kids want an opportunity to play, and that's important. Now, will every one of them play? I don't know. I don't know what their role will be this year. But we've also got high school kids that will start. We've got high school kids that some are better than some of the Division I kids we have. So it's about that fit, and it's about doing your research. And the last thing I encourage, if you can, no matter where you sign, go watch a game. Go watch a game, because I think so many families don't have a full understanding of what they're getting into. Go meet with the professor, learn about your major, go watch a game. You talked about Millersville. John does an amazing job. We played them last year. First 2 arms, every arm they ran out was 88 to 93. Closer comes in at 95, 96. And this is Division II baseball. So we're in the foothills, or we're in the mountains of southern West Virginia, and we've got 4, 5, 6 guys that'll touch a 9. That's nothing now. So it's like college baseball is really good. And I think some of my best memories come from Division II baseball and making the best. I don't remember a lot of games. I don't remember a lot of stats, but I remember my best friends and the experiences we have. And I still have my college coach showed up to my wedding last summer. That means more to me than anything in this world. And he's met my kids. Like that means a lot to me. He helped me as a man. So while we're trying to seek out the highest level, we should be seeking out people that are going to help us develop and help us grow and make some of the best memories, of our life.
I think that is, and I'm just going to add, if you can't see a game, go see a practice. You really will be able to get a good idea of what type of talent is really playing at all of these various levels of college baseball. But I want to make sure, as a parent, everything that Coach Bailey just said, I mean, now as a 60-year-old, I have 2 grandsons. All my players that played for me at the college and high school levels, they all have children. They're all married. They're all, some of them own their own businesses. They still call me coach. That's the greatest feeling in the world. So, it's something that is a part of a much bigger process in a student athlete's life. It's not just about baseball. And so everything that Coach Bailey just said, I emphasize with a big exclamation point. Find your time to find Coach Bailey on Twitter. Just listen to what some of the things that he talks about when he shares a video or when he's writing about baseball or pitching specifically. It will really enhance your student athletes, not only current baseball environment, but their future as well. So, Drew, I want to say thank you very much. As always, I greatly appreciate your time. I look forward to watching you during the season. I will be down in that neck of the woods in the Pittsburgh area. I will be down going to see some games in that area, and I hope to come down and get a BP jacket and a lid.
Come see us. We'll put you up in my mother-in-law's got a bed and breakfast right down the road, so we'll take care of you.
That'll work perfectly. So if you like today's content, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, make sure you follow us every Tuesday. No pressure here, but next week our guest will be Coach Mike Bianco from Ole Miss, current College World Series champion. So you won't want to miss that. Drew, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you. Are you going to the ABCA, by the way?
Yes, sir. I'll be there. And then the week after, I'll be in Toronto at the Best Ever Coaches Clinic speaking. So if anybody's going to be at either one of those, love to build relationships and just talk and have good conversation about the sport.
Super. Thank you to everybody that took the time to watch this evening, and look forward to speaking with you again next week. Thank you guys very much.